It's 1996, and 12-year-old Florent Groberg is arriving at his Chicago home after school. Flo, as he's called, was born in France and moved to the States with his adopted mother and father only a few years earlier. Though new to the English language, he's been picking it up quickly and has finally started to enjoy his new life. Most days, he gets home, has a snack, and does some homework. But not this day.
I come back from school, and my dad's home. 7 to 7, he was always gone working. And my mom didn't have a job at the time. And so the fact that she wasn't home, he was home, was a little bit shocking to me. But I said, okay, you have a half day, you quit, what happened? I'm making jokes, and he says, listen, I need you to sit down. Something has happened to your uncle. I said, well, which one? My mom has, 9 brothers and sisters. And so I said, which one? He's like, your Uncle Abdu.
Flo was shocked. Uncle Abdu was his favorite, someone he had looked up to his entire life. His father took a deep breath.
He sat me down and he told me that my uncle had just was killed in Algeria by a terrorist organization called a GIA, and he explained to me what had happened. So they shot him because my grandfather was a prisoner of war in the French Indochine for 3 years. And when he was released, he came back to Algeria, and then he was part of the independence against the French. And so he was really well known and really well respected. And so they obviously killed his son and wanted to send a message. Terrorism at its finest, right?
The 12-year-old Flo started to shake.
It was for the first time in my life that some massive cracks got through my foundation. It took my innocence away, in a way. And it's fascinating that you can be thousands of miles away from the situation and be so deeply impacted by something.
Angry and confused, Flo ran to his room in tears.
And so it prompted me to go into my room, I'll never forget, and I took all the G.I. Joes. I wasn't really playing with those things anymore anyway, but all the toys I've had accumulated over the years, I put them all in a trash bag, and I threw them out.
Flo's father stood in the hallway, listening to what his son was doing. And a couple hours later, sat him down.
And my dad asked me, just a couple hours later, he came to me and said, why would you do that? And I said, I was done playing Army. Next time I play Army, I'll be in the Army.
A decade later, after the 9/11 attacks, Flo Groberg followed through on that promise when he joined the Army. On August 8th, 2012, on the busy streets of Afghanistan, he encountered a suicide bomber and did everything he could to stop the man. His heroic actions that day not only saved the lives of dozens of people, but also led to him receiving the Distinguished Medal of Honor. In today's episode, our hosts sit down with Flo to discuss how growing up in 2 countries helped give him relevant perspective, how the Army taught him what the true definition of love is, and what it feels like to be a comic book hero. I'm Carrie Varuhaikis, and this is Army Matters.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lieutenant General Retired Leslie C. Smith, and welcome to Army Matters. Today, I'm here with my best friend, my buddy,
the 15th Sergeant Major of the Army, Dan Dailey. How are you today, Les?
Yeah, Daniel A. Blue Eyes. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little chilly. We've had some snow lately, and
yeah, we need to get you a heater or something, down there.
No heat for the troops on this end of the block.
Come on. I'll bring you my AUSA jacket down there. How about that?
Okay, I'll take it.
You take that? Okay, so Dan.
Yes.
How much do you really know about Medal of Honor recipients?
I mean, I know a lot.
You know a lot?
I met a bunch. I sat on the board.
Yeah, but you haven't met this amount.
Okay.
Okay, so I got a couple questions for you.
All right.
And you cannot Google it.
I'm not Googling.
Okay, good.
Straight
so
off.
how many individuals have received the Medal of Honor over the years?
Total, all services.
Total, all services.
3,428.
Close, but incorrect. The answer is 3,526.
Ooh, I was
Yeah.
close, though.
You're close.
It was close.
But,
Okay.
but this is not grenade throwing. Thank you.
This is
Yes, it's not horseshoes.
No, okay.
So how many recipients are from the Army?
It's got to be the majority.
Yes.
I'm going to say 2,212.
Close, but incorrect again. The answer is 2,478.
That was close, though.
That was pretty close. Pretty close.
Yeah.
And how many living recipients of the Medal of Honor are there?
I do know the answer to this one.
Okay. And tell us how you know that answer.
Because I was just recently at the inaugural ball to honor Medal of Honor recipients, and 25 of them were present, and there's 61 alive today.
61. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And how many of them did you know of that 25 that were there?
Personally, I was probably involved with 10 of them when 10 when they received their Medal of Honor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, Dan,
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your experience serving on that board, the Medal of Honor board?
As the Sergeant Major of the Army, for all of the Army people who are nominated for the Medal of Honor, we review those. It takes a lot of work because it's obviously very prestigious, right? And it's different than any other award because it's our highest award for valor. And a lot of times it takes a lot of research, and there's a whole team that helps us do that. A lot of times we call on the Center for Military History and other folks because not only do you review ones that occur for the Afghanistan and Iraqi wars, but you have to review some as far back as I did one from the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just amazing, though, what you read about that our soldiers have done throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many that weren't recommended, right? I mean, we had a team that helped us narrow those down, but we had several. So there was a period where, I'd take them home at night, and every single night for a couple months, I was reading and doing research to determine whether or not their actions earned the distinction of the Medal of Honor.
Pretty humbling. I mean, especially if you have to go far back with all of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's just amazing. What does that have to do with what we're going to do today?
The reason why we're talking about this today, Dan, is because we have our own Medal of Honor recipient right here in our building on the 6th floor. There are people asking for autographs, and he's as cool as the other side of the pillow.
I think I know who it is. I know him.
It's Flo Groberg. Captain Flo Groberg. Welcome to Army Matters, brother.
Honored to be here. Thanks. Already, I've been waiting for this conversation.
Have you? How long?
Yeah, about 5 minutes.
Okay, all right.
We got the right guy on the show today,
right,
don't we?
that's good.
Yeah, we do.
That's good.
Well, Flo, we got so much to unpack here. And I know our listeners probably have a million questions too, and as we do. But I want to start off with something a little fun. Our listeners may or may not know that AUSA does what is called a Medal of Honor series. It's a comic book series, and it focuses on the achievements of our nation's highest medal for valor and those people who received it. Last year, we released the story of Flo Groberg.
Yeah. I know our listeners can't see it, but I'm showing it.
That's right. So, Flo, when you were growing up as a little kid reading comic books, did you ever thought you'd be an American hero and have your own comic book someday?
Well, first of all, thank you. Seriously, for the team and
Yeah.
everyone that put in such hard work to put this story in this capacity, in this type of form, and it's pretty exceptional. The short answer is absolutely not. First of all, I wasn't even born in this country, so I never even saw myself as an American.
Mm-hmm.
Second, the idea of being in a comic book, no. And third, I still don't really believe it, but it's in front of me. And so it's obviously real. And it's pretty freaking cool because
Yeah.
this is something that I can share with my son. That he's going to appreciate it a lot more than I will ever. So this is just humbling.
And you know, Flo, I saw some people standing in the hall wanting to get your autograph or something.
Nah, that's not true. Listen, it's just an honor to be walking around these halls and get to meet people who are just like-minded, who support the mission and work so hard behind the scenes. You know, it's just an opportunity to really say thank you as well.
Well, thanks for doing that. So you were born in Paris. So do you speak French?
I do. Je parle français.
Ooh la la.
Is he our first French speaker?
I think so.
Yeah.
So you spent a lot of time there before moving to the U.S. as a teenager. Now, how do you think that international upbringing helped you as a soldier?
That's a great question. I did grow up there. I spent the first 11 years of my life living in Europe.
Yeah.
And it gave me a completely different flavor and understanding of culture. And I think anywhere you live, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in South America, whether you spend some time in Africa or Asia, those experiences are really important for an individual because it gives you a different perspective, a better understanding of how other people view things and operate and process things, from family dynamics to work-life balance to sports, to, food, right? And it's so different. So for me, I grew up in Paris. We didn't have a lot of money. So we live in what the French called from the ghetto. After I student medal, they wrote from the ghetto of Paris to the White House. So I guess I lived in the projects. But it gave me an opportunity to live in that culture. And when I moved to the States, it was very different. Like, it's just absolutely completely different. And here's a quick example. From the age of 5, I walked to school on my own. 5 years old, right? My mom used to give me a list in the evenings and she says, all right, go to the Moroccan and go get the meats, go to the tabac and go get my cigarettes, right? Go to la boulangerie and go get the bread. And so I had this list and I would just go and give it to the guy and it'd fill my bag up. I'd give him money and he gave me money back. And you're 5, 6, 7 years old and you're already learning a little bit about independence and responsibilities and things like that. But that was the culture there. And when I moved to Chicago, that was immediately removed from me. You just didn't do that. But it was replaced with something completely different that I fell in love with.
So you said before, Flo, as a child that you knew you always wanted to be a soldier someday. Exactly at what point do you remember that first occurred and why?
From the moment I can remember, I've been absolutely fascinated and attracted by the military. I think I finally understood why. One of my favorite movies is Platoon. And one of the reasons why it's Platoon is because somehow I had the opportunity to go watch the advanced premiere with my mom. And I think I was 3 or 4 years old when it came out.
Now, was that in France? Was that
in France?
Really?
Yeah.
In France. So my mom had, for a little bit of time, and she had the opportunity to work for Paris Match, and the business gave her tickets to go to the advanced premiere, and I got to go see it. Tom Berenger was in the audience for the premiere, and I remember I started crying when I saw him and pointed at him as a bad guy. And his comment to her was like, he said, well, I must have done a really good job, because obviously he was the bad guy in the movie. And I'm trying to figure this out because I guess the 80s were different. There was no PG-13 or rated R because what 4-year-old kid is in the movie theaters watching that movie? But I remember that. I remember going to that movie and I remember wanting to buy G.I. Joes and the little green and gray soldiers and just reenacting battles for years after years after years. And all until probably the age of 12 years old when my uncle was killed.
Now, Flo, you're adopted. How do you think that developed you into the man you are today?
Well, I never thought about it until probably recently. I started thinking about it when I was thinking about having kids.
Yeah.
To me, I think the importance is of being adopted. It's almost a privilege to be adopted because you were chosen. My mom picked me. She could have kept me, where I was at. She could have said, no, I don't have time. I don't have the money. I don't have the help. She did all alone. But instead, she saw me, and she couldn't have kids herself, and she said, "He's my blood, and he's my son now." And she gave me this opportunity. And then my dad, Larry, man, he's Swedish background. He's blonde and green eyes. You know how many weird questions I got in high school about this guy? Like, are you sure that's your dad? That's when I had to come to grips with, be like, oh, I'm adopted. To me, I always felt lucky because I'm like, man, these people picked me. They picked me. It shows me they picked me. They invested in me. They gave me all this love and spent a lot of money on me and had to deal with all my stupidities and stuff. But they raised me as their blood. Well, my mom for sure, because we are the same blood. But my dad, it's different. And I think that's why he's probably, aside from my wife and my son, my dad is the most important person to me. My mom is up, obviously, there too. But my dad's the most important person to me because I'm not his blood. But we're beyond that.
And he chose to love you.
Yeah, that's powerful, man.
That is.
And when I realized how important that is, this whole blood thing, when I went in the Army.
Yeah.
Yeah. You obviously said that you wanted to be a soldier since you were a kid, and you talked about how you threw your toys away, and you said the next time I'm going to play Army, it's going to be for real. How did that happen?
Yeah, so freshman year of college, I just get there, and 9/11 happens.
Yeah.
And so I think the world stopped. And so did I. I remember selfishly thinking, oh my gosh, I just became a naturalized U.S. citizen this year. And the same people that killed my uncle and tried to terrorize my family are following me here and killing my new brothers and sisters. If that isn't a sign for me to go do my part, I don't know what else I need. And I got to go talk to my dad that night. I said, hey, man, I think I'm dropping out of school. I think I'm going to go join the Army. And he listened to me, and he's a man of very few words. And he's not like me. He doesn't get agitated and excited. He's just really cool, calm, and collected, man. He's such a Nordic. But he said, look, I hear you, but what's the one thing I asked of you when I gave you my name? What are you talking about? I was like, I don't remember. I said, when I gave you my name, I said a Groberg, when he or she starts something, they finish it, specifically when it gets hard. Because the moment that you find a way to quit because it gets too hard for you is the moment you realize that you're going to quit everything else that you start. Like, you just started school. You made a commitment to go to school. You're playing sports in school. You have a commit to your team. Get your education. Finish what you started. And then go and join the Army. And then he said something really key to me. He said, Flo, I've been around for a bit. And I promise you, this is not going to be a 1 month or a year thing. This is going to linger for a while. You're going to get your opportunity to play your part. Man, this guy is like the biggest conservative Republican guy I know. I figured he's going to say, oh, I'm going to war with you. I'm going to get my uniform back on, blah, blah, blah. Let's go get these guys. Instead, he did what he always did when it came down to serious things. Is that took a deep breath, he assessed the situation, and he made logical sense.
Yeah.
And so I said, the next day I called him back. I slept on it. I said, Roger that. As soon as I graduate, we're going to go. You're going to come with me. I'm going to go enlist. He said, I'll be there. That's what we did. I didn't realize there was this little thing about dual citizenship at the time and clearances. They came back and said, well, time out before we can put you in a course, you need to renounce your friend's citizenship. And so I said, okay, how hard can that be? So I went to the French embassy in D.C. and I went in and said, hey, je m'appelle Florent Groberg, je suis venu ici pour renoncer à ma nationalité française.
I'm sure they were happy to hear that.
And the guy goes, yeah, why don't you take the elevator, second floor, third room on the right. I was like, oh, man, it must be a lot. I was like, man, I must be doing something right. Everybody's trying to leave. Now, I went in there, and this, I'll never forget this lady, super nice, and she said, you want to renounce your French citizenship? I was like, yes. She's like, why? I was like, well, I want to join the United States Army, and apparently I got to get a clearance. And she says, here's another plan. Why don't you just join the French Army? Yeah, I know.
They got recruiters at the embassy there.
I haven't heard of that one before.
all my life I've been told that sometimes I just talk a little too much. But I don't know what happened. Some type of angel must have knocked on my top of my head at that moment, because all I kept hearing was like ding, 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 ding. Stop. Deep breath. You don't want to mess this up because this woman has the power to keep you French. I took a deep breath. I'll never forget. I said, but ma'am, I've been living here, for the last 10 years, and my country just got attacked, and I want to be a part of that solution. And I'm sure I'll be fighting alongside some of the French troops out there. And she got like emotional and said, okay. And so she signed a piece of paper. I said, okay. She's like, well, you're going to get a letter back. I asked how long, and she says it could take a couple weeks. So I'm fired up. I was like, this easiest thing I've ever done.
How long did it take?
18 months.
What?
Yep.
18 months.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, Flo, eventually you did get into the U.S. Army and proudly served our country. Who would you consider your greatest mentor throughout your Army career?
Greatest mentor in the Army.
Don't say Dan Dailey.
There's two of them.
Okay.
One is Joe Mingus, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Good, great man.
Working as his PSD leader, got to see him operate. He had this way of being able to sit in a room with all these leaders and just demonstrate such leadership. People wanted to hear his comments. People were not afraid of him. They were afraid to disappoint him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was very thoughtful, also brilliant, incredibly smart. And I think there's a little bit of history with him and the Pope crash, and people understand his heroism himself. He's willing to go do and put in the hard work. So he was one. But probably the most important individual in my career in the United States Army was my platoon sergeant when I got to Afghanistan on my first tour. Corey Staley, Sergeant First Class Corey Staley. Corey and I are doing a project that we can't disclose yet, coming out in a couple months, still together. So he's incredibly impactful person. I had to embarrass him at the Hall of Heroes of the Pentagon after I received the medal, to kind of, highlight him. He hates that. He hates to be singled out and highlighted. He's just stereotypical American warrior.
Yeah.
But what that man did for me as a young lieutenant, my first tour, coming in the middle of a deployment, not knowing from left to right, and embracing me and giving me an opportunity to be a leader while also mentoring me and without embarrassing me in front of the guys, was something I'll never forget. That's the truest of true leadership.
Hey, did you get your AUSA merch yet? Check out our online selection at shop.ausa.org.
Welcome back to Army Matters. Now, Flo, you received the Medal of Honor due to your actions on August 8th, 2012. Tell us, what happened that day?
I was in Nangarhar, Afghanistan, and the job was simple. At the time, I was running the personal security detail for the brigade commander. It was Colonel Mingus, now obviously Joe Mingus. And so I ran that security team. I planned all his air travels. I planned his security movements, coordinated with the receiving units, did timelines, all that stuff. For August 8, 2012, the mission was to go to the Kunar Provincial Governor's meeting. The night before, Colonel Mingus stopped me and said, hey, listen, there's a couple other individuals that just got here. He's like, make sure there's space on the helos for them. I said, all right, roger that, sir. Next morning, when we arrived and landed, my platoon sergeant, Sergeant First Class Brink, Brian Brink comes up to me and goes, hey, sir, we don't have an escort. I said, yeah, roger that. He's like, what do we do? I said, well, go get the translator. You see those Afghan National Army guys smoking cigarettes by the gate. Tell them they're coming with us. Put them up front. Tell them to spread out and put some distance between us. I'm going to run through this base. 10 guys is tiny. I'm going to find any potential soldiers, and we're going to go out in the next film. So I ran. I went to all the places you go for. I went to the hooches, found Sergeant Brian O'Brien, who's still mad at me because he lost half a butt cheek. I went to the chow hall, didn't find anybody. Went to the weight room, gym, didn't find anybody. The last place I didn't look was the bathrooms. I know I would have had another one in there. And then I found some civilian contractor. I asked him if he had a weapon. I was like, you're American? He goes, yep. I said, you have a weapon? He's like, yep. It's like, you're coming with us too. Still don't know whatever happened to that guy. But anyway, he came with us, and usually the way it operated, I would put everybody in a diamond, and I would put a principal in a diamond. I had too many principals. I put myself at the front of the diamond instead of the rear, put enough distance with the Afghan National Army because I didn't want any green on blue situation. And we walked out. And atmospherics were, man, it was quiet. I remember I got a radio piece that there was a car following us, and it stopped following us. And by 700 meters into the movement, 2 motorcycles came flying up. And, thank goodness for the Afghan National Army lead man, because he did a hell of a job immediately stopping a patrol and then engaging with his rifle. He didn't shoot at him, but he did point his rifle and start screaming in Dari, forced that first bike to fall. But at that point, it stopped the whole patrol, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And so that forced me to start looking to my left, and that's when I saw this individual just came out of nowhere, and he was probably 20, 30 feet from us, walking backwards parallel to us. And he did a couple movements and then just started, he just beelined it for us. And at that moment, I remember in my head thinking, oh boy, this guy is a threat, but I can't see a weapon. What if he's mentally challenged, right? If I shoot a guy that's mentally challenged, I'm going Leavenworth. So I don't know what prompted me to do this, but in my head is like, my new escalation of force is I'm running at him. And so I'm running towards him, and I'm paying attention, and he's never looking at me. He's always looking past me. I'm like, there's something wrong with him. And so when I got to him, I hit him. And that's when I realized, like, yep, confirmed, bad guy, vest on. And I grabbed him. And Mahoney, my RTO is right follows me. And so he's with me, and I take this guy, I'm like, bomb, 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 bomb. And I start pushing him away. And I'm thinking, I got to get him away from everybody as quickly as possible, as far away as possible. And you don't think, you just react. You allow your training and everything to just proceed. So I started pushing him, and I threw him. And, he landed chest first. And the last thing I remember in that moment is watching his hand, and his hand opened up, and then it went black. He had a dead man's trigger. I think that guy was so scared of what he was doing that when he pressed it, he just didn't want to let go until the last second. That's what saved me. That's why I'm still here, is because that guy was too scared to do his job. But he did let go eventually, and so threw me 30 feet. I ended up spending the next couple of minutes laying on the ground. When I woke up, my foot was facing me. My fibula I had blood everywhere. My ears were ringing. My head was spinning. Took my helmet off, threw it. Couldn't find my rifle. So took my pistol out, made sure I rounded the chamber, assessed my wounds, realized that I didn't have a tourniquet. You know why I didn't have a tourniquet? Every day we went on patrol. Sergeant Major Griffin used to say, hey, Groberg, why do you keep putting your tourniquet in your bottom left pocket? What are you going to do if you step in an IED? Put him, he's like, put it in your top of your arm. And I was like, come on, Sergeant Major. I was like, what if I lose my arm?
Just like a lieutenant.
Yeah, just like a lieutenant. And guess what? I swear, I was looking at my leg, and I don't like paper cuts. I complain. And I'm not a blood guy. And so now I have blood everywhere. My foot's facing me, and I can't find a tourniquet. And all I can think is like, Sergeant Major, man. Sergeant Major's going to kill me. And I started dragging myself out, but luckily my platoon sergeant came in and grabbed me and dragged me into a hole where my medic and my translator saved my life. But that day is the worst day of my life, not because of what happened to me. I'm here. I have a son, I have a wife, I have a great life. I'm part of this community. That day is the worst day of my life because Commander Sergeant Griffin, Major Graham, Major Kennedy, and Reggie Abdel Fattah never came home. And so the guy that detonated my feet and still didn't kill me or Mahoney killed 4 of my brothers that were 20 or 30 feet away.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But let me leave this on a good note. There's never be a good note because those guys are the greatest of our generation. right? The ultimate sacrifice. They're true heroes. I received Medal of Honor because of that. And I shout to say their names in every opportunity I ever get to represent the medal, right? Because that's my family, that's my brothers. But I will tell you one thing. I realized that the true power of love, to me, I realized it in war. When you're willing to die for individuals that you probably were never associated with outside of the military. Guys with different cultural backgrounds, different languages, different educational systems, different beliefs on the religious or political side. Heck, my best friend's a Packers fan. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. I mean, that's big. That's saying a lot.
That is saying a lot.
That's saying a lot. But those people, you get to know them. You get to trust them. You get to understand them. You get to love them. You might not always agree with them, but every single day when you're out there, you're willing to put your life on the line for them. And that's what becomes bigger than blood.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to really identify what true love is about. Love of brotherhood and sisterhood. And I learned that in the military, and it's something that I'll always be grateful for.
Yeah. What's the biggest lesson that you learned during recovery? I mean, you went through different surgeries, and tell us about that.
I learned that I will never, ever, and I mean ever, try to put myself in someone else's shoes. Every one of our injuries are so unique to us, whether you lost a leg, whether you're blind, whether you have your limb salvaged, whether you had a brain injury, whatever it is. You cannot compare. It is so unique to you. It completely shakes the system, and we all react differently. Instead, I learned to appreciate the opportunity to be in the room, whether it's a lot of times in silence or whether it's through a conversation, but to be a good listener. Because when I went through my suicidal ideation, when I went through the pain that I was going through because of all the medication that I was given, and you add the pain, the lack of sleep, the Ambien, whatever it was to allow me to just somewhat operate as a human being, that completely destroyed my inner self because I was no longer me. I was just engulfed in this negativity of my own thoughts that was fueled by these narcotics. It was individuals like Travis Mills, quadruple amputee, who came into my room and listened to me. Even if it was just silence, didn't judge me. And I learned through the power of a conversation, the incredible healing opportunity that is presented to an individual.
Yeah.
Flo, I got to know, where were you when you received the phone call letting you know that you were going to get the Medal of Honor? And what went through your head?
I was home in my apartment in Washington, D.C. with my wife, and I was wearing my Chicago Bears t-shirt, and this phone number with 000 showed up on my phone. Picked it up, and it said, "Hi, is this Captain Groberg?" I said, yes it is. It said, "This is so-and-so from the White House. You mind holding for the president?"
Whoa.
I said, yes. Okay. I said something stupid. I don't remember what I said. It was like, yeah, good, yeah. And President Obama showed up. I was like, "Flo, how are you?" I was like, Mr. President, "Oh, no formalities. We know each other." I'd met him a few times. And he's like, "Man, it's my honor to let you know that I'm going to be presenting you with a Medal of Honor." And then he went on to explain to me the meaning of the Medal of Honor and the responsibility behind it. And then he said, he asked me if I had any questions. I said, no. He said, "Okay, one more thing. You can't tell anyone about this until the Army Protocol Office tells you can." He's like, "Don't." He's like, "That's a direct order." I said, "Raja, Mr. President." So I hung up the phone. My wife obviously had heard everything. She's girlfriend at the time. And I remember thinking, like, man, I got to tell my mom. If I don't tell my mom, I'm not going to make it to the ceremony. But if I tell her, then she's going to tell everybody.
Then you defied the president's order too.
I did.
Commander-in-Chief.
I did defy the president's order. I did tell him that I did do that too. He forgave me.
Yeah.
But I did it 10 minutes later too. It's not like I waited much longer.
You didn't even wait.
So I called my mom.
You knew who the real commander-in-chief was.
I called my mom. I was like, "Listen, I just got a call from the president." She's like, "Who?" I said, President who?" I was like, President Obama. She's like, why President Obama call you? I was like, okay, I'm going to be receiving a pretty significant award. It's called a Medal of Honor. She's like, I know what the Medal of Honor is. She's like, you're not getting the Medal of Honor. I was like, I'm getting the Medal of Honor, Mom, and I want you to be there. She's like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I said, listen, the president told me to pass this on to you. So I did lie about the president. I said, he said to tell your mom that if she posts it on Facebook or tells anyone about this, that she's not invited in the White House. She's like, he said that? He mentioned me? I was like, 100%, Mom. So you can't. I was like, I'll tell you when you can post it. She said, oh, I won't tell a soul. She didn't tell a soul. The only time I've ever seen my mom speechless is every time she's around President Obama. So anyway.
And what year was that?
2015. That was I received a call in September 2015. I received a medal on November 12th, 2015.
So you're currently working with a company called AE Industrial Partners.
That's right.
Why did you decide to work with them?
First of all, I wanted to continue serving in a national security space. And that's really important to me. And, it's a private equity firm. It's a venture firm. So people have the false understandings of what these companies do sometimes. But the reality is I wanted an opportunity to work with like-minded individuals. So individuals who are committed to national security, committed to investments, committed to technologies, really love this country. And what I love about this company is that we try to acquire companies that have good management teams, really good product that want to make an impact. And every single day, I'm with brilliant people who have done a heck of a lot more than me, and I get to learn from them.
Now, one last question. We'll make this one quick. And you mentioned your wife and how important she is in your life right now. But I heard this like mushy love story thing about how you met your wife. I have to find out if this is true.
Yeah, we got to find out.
I was told that you were just walking by and you never met her before, and she dropped her phone and somehow you instantly fell in love. What's the story here? What's the story?
Well, there's some truth to that story. I was playing Call of Duty in my apartment, and I just ordered a pizza, and I was a very happy guy when this
Call of Duty.
Yeah, Call of Duty. Yeah,
Okay.
I know it was a perfect Friday night, man. And one of my friends from many years ago called me and said, "Hey, come hang out. I got 9 girls. I know you're single." I said, "Nah, I'm good. I got a really busy night ahead of me." She says, "Come on, Flo. Just come hang out." And I was like, following, I said, okay, I'll go. So I took the metro, took the metro. As I walk into Science Club, there's a group of girls sitting in this patio, and one of them drops her phone. So I pick it up. I'm going to give it to her. I look at her. I'm like, wow, okay, hello. But, I was here to see 9 other girls, right? So it's like,
That's how Medal of Honor recipients have it.
Yeah,
when they
They
roll
just
in
got
there,
it.
I'm
like
on a
9.
mission.
Yeah.
So I went to the bar. I'm texting my friend. I'm like, where you at? And she finally texts me. She's like, hey, we're upstairs. And I go upstairs, and lo and behold, the girl that dropped her phone is upstairs with part of that crew. And I'm like, hi, hey, this is awesome. And so she sat next to me. And I can't believe I'll say this, but I thought everything was going perfect. And we all transition outside. For all of you people that don't, your kids, if you just, wait till you're 21, like a couple drinks. And all I wanted to do is go, please don't do this, folks. I wanted to chew. And there's a 7-Eleven right in front of me.
You wanted a dip.
That's right. I wanted a dip. And I said, hold on. And I ran across the street and came back. She was gone. No phone number, nothing. And she was gone. She thought I left her. I thought she left me. But luckily, my friend was her boss, and she gave me her number, and I texted her the next day, and I said, hey, let's go out tonight. So we went out and then hung out, and I saw her every day for the next 2 weeks, and then a year later she moved in, and 3 years later we're married, and 3 years later we have a kid. And another one on the way.
Well, that's awesome.
She's a rock star.
Yeah, thanks for sharing it. Well, we are out of time. We could talk to you all day long, as the listeners can obviously attest to just hearing all this stuff. And there's so many things we want to say, but there's only one more I want to say to you. Thank you. Thank you for your incredible service and your sacrifice to this great nation.
You too. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for your leadership and example, both of you.
Thanks, Flo. Yeah, we're proud of you, brother.
Every October, AUSA hosts its annual meeting and exposition. And at last year's event, we invited attendees to swing by our booth and answer some questions. One thing we asked was, what drew you to a life of service and inspired you to continue? One veteran talked about how he was actually ashamed of his service until years later, when he came to realize the good he had done.
My name is Robert Teport. I was stationed in Vietnam for 2 years with the 173rd Airborne Brigade. We were the first Army ground combat troops deployed to Vietnam, and we were only there for supposedly for 90 days temporary duty. There was a guy named Beauchamp, another was a guy named Zoints, and one day we were on a patrol. As he turned the corner in the trail, he got shot and he yelled out, but we all took cover. The jungle erupted and was called July 4th on steroids. And then Beauchamp yelled back to my friend Short, cover me, I'm going to go get him. By the time Short said don't, Beauchamp was dead. And so that's sort of affected my whole life. I didn't claim to be a veteran until about a year or so ago. Because when we came back from Vietnam, well, first of all, I felt guilty about leaving those guys behind, and I never talked about it. And so that kind of ate at me. And then when we came back from Vietnam, there's no great parades. Nobody would, I came back in 67, so it was the height of the anti-war movement. Maybe 10 years or so ago was the 50th anniversary of them dying. And so I hadn't really talked to anybody in my squad. I decided I was going to put together a reunion. And so 5 of us got together in Chicago for the first time. So I was talking to someone about survivor's guilt, and they said, well, they died so that you could tell the story, so you could be grateful. So I'm grateful for all the people that died in Vietnam and sacrificed their lives, and all the people that joined the service and protect our country. And I'm just grateful that I'm a part of those people that did that. I got to run our battalion civil affairs program, where I had a team of wounded soldiers. I was a 19-year-old E5, and we built a couple schools, a playground, a health clinic. We got Army doctors to volunteer. That's one of the untold stories of the Vietnam War, the good that we did.
If you'd like to share with us your call to service or Army story, leave us a voicemail at 703-236-2914 or email a voice note to podcast@ausa.org.
To all our listeners, thanks for joining us. Army Matters is brought to you by the Association of the United States Army, the U.S. Army's professional association, member-supported, Army-connected. Visit us at ausa.org for more information or to become a member. Your membership helps AUSA continue to carry out its mission, educate, inform, and connect with the total Army, our industry partners, and supporters of a strong national defense. Today's episode was hosted by Lieutenant General Retired Les Smith and SMA Retired Dan Dailey, and anchor hosted by Carrie Barrow-Heckes. Anthony Del Call is the producer and writer, and Andy Bosnag is the supervising sound editor. Ellen Toner is the content editor. Unzinga Curry is the executive producer, and the senior producers are Carrie Barrow-Heckes and LaSharon Duncan. Be sure to subscribe to Army Matters wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a review. As you know, we love seeing stars in the Army, especially if it comes in the form of a 5-star review. AUSA's Army Matters podcast can also be heard on Reach Across America Radio on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app with the search of the word Reef. AUSA's Army Matters podcast primary purpose is to entertain. The podcast does not constitute advice or services. While guests are invited to listen, listeners, please note that you're not being provided professional advice from the podcast or the guest. The views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the views of AUSA. For questions or to provide topic recommendations, email us at podcast@ausa.org. I'm with Sharon Duncan. Hope you have a great Army Day. Hooah!